everybody who is joining us here in the room, on the internet, and also out on Mariners Vision as well. We are celebrating 50 years of Title IX. I'm going to be your host for this panel, Angie Mentink, with Roots Sports. I'm a Title IX baby myself. I went to the University of Washington on a softball scholarship, so definitely a recipient of Title IX funds. Let's meet our panel today. We have a very talented panel. Lots of cool stories are going to be told here today. First up, I'm just in no particular order, Letitia Selk, who is the VP for Products and Technology here for the Mariners, joined them in 2021. She was a gymnast at the University of Washington during her undergrad, and then she went on to coach at Penn State. Kyla, who is the oldest one on our panel at 13 years old, is a softball player from West Seattle who attends Madison Middle School. I didn't mean she was the oldest. I meant she was the most mature. She's been playing softball for 8 years. Maggie Gallagher, coach of UW women's baseball team. They have a club team now. Maggie is a former UW softball player. Let's go Dogs. That now coaches the UW Women's Club baseball team. She led the team to secure the first ever Women's Club Baseball National Championship in March. Do we have anybody in here that's a big fan of Maggie's at all? Yeah? Yeah. She might have a few players here in the audience. And then Sedona Prince, University of Oregon basketball forward. She is 6'7". I stood up on the chair, and she was still taller than me. Forward for the Ducks that has basically broken the internet, not once, but several times. She shed light on the disparity in facilities and treatment of female athletes compared to their male counterparts during the 2021 NCAA basketball tournaments in a viral video that only was viewed 30.5 million times. How about that? Now, when I do television, I always tell people, don't give people a whole bunch of numbers because they can't concentrate. Well, I'm going to give you some numbers, and I want you to concentrate. And I warned you, so it's okay in this situation. Title IX, if you don't know what it is, all it basically is a federal civil rights bill that says if you take federal money, that you've got to spend that federal money, because we all pay taxes. So if you're going to take that federal money, you have to spend it equally on males and females in regards to your enrollment. It's pretty simple. The thing is it really was about education and changing the educational landscape when it came to men and women. It's not unfortunate or fortunate, but where you end up hearing it is more and more in sports, and because there is so much disparity in sports as well. Here are the numbers I want you to pay attention to. In 1970, just 59% of women graduated high school, and just 8% of them had degrees. It's really hard to argue the impacts of Title IX because just 7% of high school athletes were girls, and females received just 2% of school athletic budgets. It is absolutely bonkers. Athletic scholarships, basically non-existent. So you fast forward and you see what the impact is. Women make up the majority of enrolled college students and bachelor's degree earners in the United States. So just a huge swing the other way because of Title IX. All right, so let's start to talk with our panel. I'm going to ask them a couple questions, and then I'm going to open it up for you to pepper them with your questions as well. Sedona, let's start with you. The biggest challenge facing women in sports right now?
Great question. The biggest challenge is, I'd say, people just doubting us. As women's athletes, we have to face, the challenges we do in our sport. That's overcoming positions and training every single day, and then we still have to face the outlying challenges as well, which is people doubting us, people not thinking that we play as well or as hard as our men counterparts, and so that just brings in so many just difficulties when we're trying to play a sport just like everyone else. And so it's not just our sport; it's so much more than that.
Maggie, I would ask you a version of that same question, because I'm imagining you get it a lot. Well, why don't you just play softball?
Yeah, of course, that's a great question. So I would say...
I've got 2 good questions already. I'm killing this.
Being as a woman playing a sport, it is really hard. It really is trying to... It is hard to be with the males and everything, and it's hard to talk with them. Sometimes, it's easier and better to have female leaders within the sport. And I believe that having those role models and having those females to lead us has helped us a lot too as well.
Yeah, a great point. And then let's go over to you, Kyla. What does it mean for you to be able to play sports and have that avenue? I mean, for me, I always think like, you go out in life and you have to compete against men in jobs and so many different ways. And so this is just sort of another avenue to kind of get you ready for that.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that, and I agree with everybody's their responses so far. I feel like just overall, it's a really good pathway for like women in future, like myself. I feel like. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I was just asking, what does it mean for you to be able to play sports and have that opportunity?
Oh yeah, I really enjoy playing my sport. I feel like it has like a lot of confidence on and off the field. It gives me a lot of confidence. It gives me a lot of room to talk, even if I can't say it like words-wise. I can say it on the field. Mm-hmm. But overall, I just feel like it's a really good pathway for women in future.
Letitia, this one's going to be hard because it's only a half-hour show. How has the sports landscape changed since you played sports?
So pretty dramatically. It's interesting, this morning when I found out I was going to be on this panel, I reached out to all my gymnastics friends from college, and I got a chat going and just asking them the question, like, how has Title IX impacted your life? And it's interesting, when I was a freshman, the seniors on the team, as an example, they didn't have a locker room. They had to change in the women's bathroom right outside of their practice area. So there was no locker room, no laundry, et cetera, et cetera. But when I came in, so I was a freshman, we then had a locker room, and we had our laundry done. And so that's just like one little thing, but it makes a huge difference. Like you're packing your clothes around campus because you don't have a locker to put the stuff in, right? That's just a really small example, but the women's opportunity in sport has changed dramatically. I also, just working here at the Mariners, I think it was 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, I'm aging myself, but I worked at the Sonics. And there, I left sport at that time because there's a total glass ceiling. There was very little opportunity. And I don't know if y'all know, but our president of business operations is Katie Griggs, first female in in Major League Baseball, and it makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to tell the story about Katie because I hope you don't mind me telling this, Mr. Stanton, because you just happened to be standing over there. But I ran into John, and I was asking him what's going on and how's the search for, the new president of baseball operations. And he had his cell phone in his hand. He was like, I haven't put down my cell phone because I'm waiting on a call back for my, lead candidate. And I was like, really? I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he goes, and it's a she. And yes, you did. You did that as well. And I do think it is so important to have, women in these positions. And like you said, I assure you, when I started broadcasting 25 years ago, there was not a whole lot of women, as I looked around the locker room either. And you guys probably will know, another little glass ceiling that got shattered was the Miami Marlins GM, Kim Ang, and I love this. She says, you can't be it if you can't see it. And so I think it is very important that, Kim is there with the Marlins, that Katie is here with the Mariners, and I really am applauding the Mariners for the steps that they have taken so that there are, more women. It's 50% of the population, for goodness sakes. If you take away that 50% of the population, you really are missing out on a lot of opportunities and a lot of expertise. Sedona, how can it change? What are the next steps? What can people do, and how can they, make sure that more women are given these opportunities?
Well, there's so much room to grow. I think that we see all these advancements that women have made in sports, and it's like, oh, we're celebrating this, and as we should, but there's still so much improvement that we need to make. I think the biggest thing that women's athletes have, different than men, in my opinion better, is that our off-court stories tell a lot more than the men's side. What we do, our challenges we face, upbringings, our families, and that's what makes our sport so special, is that it's not just, like I said, it's not just a sport, it's not between in the lines, it's so much more than that, just who we are, what we have to face, the battles we go through, and so that's the biggest thing, is just people paying attention to those stories, following our women's athletes, listening to them, and just watching them grow.
One thing that is always a little bit of a head scratcher, and I'm so happy that, in the front offices and at the administrative level that we're getting more and more females in those roles. It's kind of, though, like running the Boston Marathon and getting to the 5-mile mark and going, we won. Well, you did well, but we have a little bit further to go on this journey. And you think about the WNBA, and 1/3 of the head coaches in the WNBA are men. Does anybody want to venture to guess how many head coaches in the NBA are women? Yeah, a big fat 0. So somehow, some way, it's been okay, and this idea that it's okay for men to coach women, but it's not okay for women to coach men. So that's sort of the next little barrier I think that we are going to see more and more. Now again, it's happening, but it's definitely something that you need to see happen more. All right, so let's go back to our panel. Let's ask you, Maggie, what is one thing that you hope to instill in the young women that you coach and you mentor?
Yeah, I would say, just be who you are, be the best version of yourself. A lot of the times you kind of lose that faith in yourself, and I believe being able to lead women in general, no matter if it's sports, no matter if it is in life, being able to have that confidence and grow within yourself too as well.
And you were at Driveline,
Yes.
which, for those who don't know, Driveline is right here in our backyard, but major league players come from all over the league to come here and train here with the Driveline program. But I have to imagine you must have been one, maybe 2 of you with ovaries in that building. There's not a lot of women there.
I was actually just talking to my friend about that recently, and I was the only female baseball or softball player at the time, and then there was only one female in the area too as well. And we were just talking, we're like, wow, like this has changed so much, and now you see more women at Driveline, and it's so great. You saw Rachel Bolkovec come through Driveline too as well, and now she's the manager of the Yankees. So I mean, it's a great opportunity for women to be at Driveline.
Yes, and their single A program, that's fantastic. Kyla, if you can, and this might be a hard question for you to undertake, but what changes would you like to see for young female athletes in the future?
Yeah, for the future, I feel like we should have more televised women's sports, such as softball. Like the college regionals are coming on, or they're happening right now, and I feel like a lot less people know about that than how you would know about baseball regionals. For taking instincts, the Mariners going off to the playoffs, which we should do that this year. But also just overall respect for it, for our sport that we play, in general as well, just going to school and be like, oh yeah, I play softball, I can be really proud of what I do, instead of being like, oh, you play softball, oh, you must not be as good as we are, I can probably hit a home run off of you. But overall, I just feel like we should have more respect for the future, and also again televising as well.
Yeah, I have played baseball and I've played softball, and I assure you of this, the softball just leaves a bigger bruise. Sedona, I'm going to ask you a question, but before I ask you the question I want to ask you, we've talked about the TikTok video that you got that had 30.5 million views, just showing the inequities at the NCAA tournament between the men's programs and the women's programs. And if you weren't one of the 30 and change million, we want to show you this video now. Here you go.
I got something to show y'all. So for the NCAA March Madness, the biggest tournament in college basketball for women, this is our weight room. Let me show y'all the men's weight room. Now, when pictures of our weight room got released versus the men's, the NCAA came out with a statement saying that it wasn't money, it was space that was a problem. Let me show y'all something else. Here's our practice court, right? And then here's that weight room. And then here's all this extra space. If you aren't upset about this problem, then you're a part of it.
So, Nona, do you think that it would have exploded the way it did if it weren't for the results of that video? And I mean, what did that video do?
I just think it's so funny how I made this video like right after practice. So 30.5 million people have seen me like sweaty with my hair tied up. And I'm like, God, come on. But yeah, I mean, that video was I just made it just to start a conversation about women's sports. We'd been seeing it on Twitter and stuff going around like our little community of women's basketball. And I had the following at the time and I was just like, just want to make a video because this is just unreal. Like people have to see this. Went to bed and it had gone, insanely viral. And so that started the conversation. People started talking about it and just responding and other sports. We saw volleyball and softball speaking about their facilities. And so it was beautiful to see like women's athletes just collectively coming together and talking about their experiences and calling, organizations that we've been so scared about speaking out for so long, finally, sticking up to them.
By the way, I just had to tell you that I giggled a little bit about you worrying about being sweaty after practice and 30 million people seeing you. Somebody made a joke one time that women will never be equal with men until they can walk down the street bald with a big beer belly hanging out and think, I look good. All right, so we have some work to do. We shouldn't be worried about those physical things so much. All right, I want to ask kind of each one of you this, and I sort of already asked you, Kyla, so I'm going to start with you, Letitia. How do you think your time as an athlete shaped you, changed you, made you?
So it absolutely made me who I am today. I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for sports in my life. It gave me opportunity, for one. It also gave me an identity and the confidence. I do wish the Hometown 9 was around when I was growing up because I admire you already. You're just amazing. But it gave me confidence. It gave me focus. The persistence that I had, the resiliency that I had. It all shaped everything I do in my life, how I approached my education, how I approached work, how I approached raising my child, and just how I approach life.
Maggie?
That question and that answer was exactly the same, honestly. Definitely not the children from mine, but in general, yes. It has shaped me to be the woman who I am today. Definitely to be a leader, specifically at work. I have 16 direct reports, and they are all males. Maybe one female, but they're all males, generally. And it is amazing how sports has given me that resiliency, that gives me that confidence in who I am today, and being able to share that with you guys and being able to share that with my team too as well, has been an amazing opportunity. But yeah, so.
You as well, Sedona.
Just give me that same thing. I mean, sports create just a community of trust building and accountability and learning who you are, being confident, being able to step on a field or a court and just be so empowered and feel so powerful and strong. And I think that's the most important thing about sports is that, the friends we make, I have lifelong friends in sport that I will always have that play pro right now. And so I get to watch them do their thing and be proud of them. And that's just a beautiful community that we get to build and grow together and watch each other grow and just root for each other.
Excellent. And I'm going to open up to questioning, but I'm also going to answer the question too, just because of my athletic background at the University of Washington. I quite literally would not be sitting here in this seat if it wasn't for sports Title IX, the scholarship that I was offered. I'm one of 6 children, and if I was not given a scholarship to college, I certainly wouldn't have been at the University of Washington. And I'm not exactly, sure, where I would have ended up, my path would have been extremely different. And then later tonight, the Mariners continue to shatter glass ceilings. I will be upstairs in the booth with Aaron Goldsmith as the color commentator, the first woman to ever do that for the Seattle Mariners. So quite literally, without Title IX and without that opportunity to have that scholarship, I just know that I wouldn't be sitting here. And it's one thing that I think is just really important to kind of underscore about Title IX, that, you know, if you have a baseball team at the University of Washington, you have a softball team at the University of Washington, let me tell you something about the economics. Neither one of them make money. And actually not many football teams do either. Obviously the big ones do, and they make a lot of money. But when you talk about, you know, well, these men, you know, are more sort of deserving to get a scholarship and go on and do something great in life, you know, more so than the other 50% of the population. It's just it's a conversation. It's a thought process that really just doesn't equate. It doesn't really make sense. And if you think, you know, that the men's swim team is there and the women's swim team is there, again, you know, these aren't people that are going pro, and even the ones that do go pro, it's minuscule. So if you're putting these scholarships out there for people to go pro, well, it just doesn't happen. What you are trying to do is provide people opportunity with federal money to give them an opportunity to go on and be really, you know, smart, productive members of society. And that's one really cool thing that athletes generally are. They're great with time management. They work well within a team together. And, you know, all of the things, they're structured, they're disciplined, and they go on generally to do really good things because of the things and the tools that they learn through sports. So yeah, let's open it up now. We have some really, really cool people here that I know that some people want to ask them questions. So please, if you could raise your hand, and we'll bring you over the mic so that everybody inside T-Mobile Park and out on the internet can hear your question as well. Or I'll just keep peppering them with questions. There we go.
This is for Sedona. Hey, your thoughts on NIL?
So NIL is, if you don't know, it's the new laws this year that passed on July 1st that student athletes can now make money on their name, image, and likeness. It's incredible. I'm actually a part of a lawsuit. I have been for 3 years pushing for NIL rights, and so, you know, I had no followers at that point. No one really knew who I was, but I was still so passionate about these athletes that, you know, like we talk about, there's, you know, athletes that just can't go pro. So swimmers or, you know, track runners, they don't have the opportunity to have a, you know, profession, and so they have the opportunity in college to optimize on their social media or make brand deals or sell merchandise, and so it's really cool. It's been amazing watching these athletes succeed, and women's athletes, you know, make more than these men, which is, I think, is really a cool part of it as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm having a blast with it. I get to partner with some really cool companies that fight for the right things, like women's empowerment and environmental change. So I'm having a blast, and it's pretty cool to watch.
It is the wild, wild west out there right now. It's in a good way, and we kind of thought this was going to happen in a little bit. It is. It'll be interesting because now, of course, they're trying to do it on the high school level as well. And some states are allowing it and some states aren't. And then some people, we just saw that happen at Ohio State, where the guy reclassified as a college player so he could start making money because he wasn't able to make money as a high school player. So hold on. It's going to get even more interesting. Any more questions? Or I'll ask our panel. Anyone? Maggie, what's next with women playing baseball? And I feel very passionate about this because I played softball, you know, my whole life. I was an alternate for the Olympic team for softball. I, you know, obviously went to UW, played softball, and I had a choice to make. I could continue on the Olympic path as an alternate for the Olympic team, or I could sign a pro contract and play baseball and tour around the country and drink beer. And I thought, well, because we were sponsored by Coors Light, I should put that in there. I probably would have drank beer anyway, but specifically it was part of my contract that I could drink beer. And so I'm so passionate about seeing women play baseball. You know, men play fast pitch softball and they play baseball, and there's just, in my opinion, not enough women baseball programs. So I love what you're doing. What's next, and where does this go from here? What do you hope?
Yeah, what I hope, I would say our biggest goal is to get NCAA status. A lot of the times, even like women's hockey, they have to create enough club teams to be able to become a NCAA team. So that's basically our goal next, for the next 10, 20 years, is to be able to be a college team. A lot of the times, you know, as a younger athlete, they were telling me like, hey, you can't play baseball. That's it. Like even in high school, they told me you can't pitch for us. Like you can't do anything with us. And that, it kind of irked me a little bit. But then as I got older, it kind of like, okay, more women are doing more things in the world, and it kind of showed me and led me to that path of being able to, what, I can do it also. If they can do it, I can do it. And being able to be with Katie and Amber, them, like, they started the club team, and being able to be with them and being able to share the same passion with them, I think is going to grow big. And I believe that more people that see this now for just UW, but also everybody else in college, I believe that, I hope that you guys start a club baseball team for women in the college aspect too as well.
Yeah, it's so fun to see the evolution of things, and sometimes you can't believe where something was or where something started. By the way, there's just, you can imagine, in my household, huge feminist, not me, my husband. And by the way, feminist means you just think that women should be paid the same thing for the same job. That's what a feminist is, just if you didn't know what the definition was. But my husband is a huge proponent. Patsy Mink, the author for Title IX, is like one of his heroes. But he gave me a stat because he teaches at Seattle Pacific University that, and again, which just blows my mind, that back in the 70s, they capped it. Medical schools and law schools limited the number to 15 or fewer women per school. In 1972, women earned only 7% of all law degrees and 9% of all medical degrees. So do you understand that they only said you can have 15 because women needed to go and have families. So you couldn't give them good jobs. You couldn't let them be a lawyer. You couldn't let, because they'd all want to do that, and then nobody be having babies. Literally, this was like the mentality of people back then, and it's just really shocking to think. I mean, I don't know if you know this or not, and you probably look at me like I have two heads. You used to have your husband sign for you if you wanted a credit card. You couldn't have your own credit card. This wasn't like hundreds of years ago. This was just really a generation ago. So it's so crazy where things sometimes start out, and you don't have baseball teams, and then all of a sudden you turn around because of funding and more eyes on it. All of a sudden, you have that. Can you think of a time, Letitia, where you ran up against something and either sports ended up helping you to sort of push through this or lean back on your experiences in sports?
I think just in general, so I don't have like one big event that happened, but I think just in general, so I pursued after I left the Sonics, I decided to go into technology, and so was leaving one male-dominated field for another, especially when I joined. And so I think just in general, approaching my work from a real, like, a team perspective, it has made a big difference in terms of how my career has evolved over time, and I learned that through sport, right? And even though gymnastics is sort of an individual sport, it's the camaraderie of the whole team. It's about knowing that sometimes you don't make the lineup, someone else makes the lineup, but it's for the betterment of the team. It's the critical thinking and being able to take feedback and critique from not only your coach but your peers, because you're all in it together, working towards a common goal. And then also, I would even say conflict, and training, frankly, year-round, 5, 6, 7 hours a day, from the time I was 10, 11, 12 years old, all the way through college. You're just around this group of people, and you build. It's like family. So you build that, and so that's just translated to how I solve problems.
Sometimes you end up winning more from your losses or learning more from your losses than you do actually your wins. Kyla, we're just about out of time, but I'm just curious, for you, how you feel sports has helped maybe put you on equal footing, with male counterparts already in your young life?
Yeah, from at school as wise, like, I mean, like, from softball, I've learned, like, how to, like, create confidence for myself, like, how, like, the sport has made me feel more confident of what I'm doing on and off the field. Like, I can, like, now I can say that, oh, I can go up against this person because I have enough confidence to do so. But overall, I just feel like it has really shaped me as a person, as well as, like, how I can make a better future for everybody, not just myself.
Good. And then maybe do you think that you could help Sedona, who's going to throw out the first pitch today?
Oh,
You have
for
some-
sure, yes.
I'm so nervous. Please, I need some tips, please.
Have you ever thrown a baseball before, Sedona?
Yeah, I threw the first pitch for the Eugene Emeralds, our little baseball team in Eugene,
Okay,
and the mascot missed it. So I'm hoping for some better luck this time.
Right. Yeah, don't bounce it. That's the only thing. But I don't want to put a negative thing. Like, make it all the way there. That's what I want to say. Make it all the way there. And maybe get with Kyla between now and when you have to throw out the first pitch. Listen, I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for sharing your stories with us all. You guys are amazing, brilliant, strong women. I'm so happy to be a part of this panel. I have one last story to tell you. I was part of an event at University of Washington, Title IX, where they brought back all of the athletes that never got their letters prior to Title IX and awarded out their letters that night. And we had a 95-year-old woman who was part of the rifle team, and she just crawled up with her walker to the end of the stage and then danced across it and gave me a big hug. So one of the neatest moments. And so I love this. I love to hear about the past experiences. I love to see where the future is headed with you, Kyla. So thank you all so much. I appreciate it. 50 years of Title IX. And the other big thing that you need to have in regards to these strong women are advocates. And I so appreciate all of the men in the room here. And I can't tell you how important that is, because you can't just go at it with our 50% of the society. We need you guys as well. So thank you very much, everybody, for being a part of this tonight. If you guys want to dance across the stage and hug me, that's fine too. Yeah.